In recent years, the Belt and Road policy, consisting of the Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road, has attracted a lot of attention. This policy was adopted by Chinese President Xi Jinping in September 2013. It borrows the historical symbols of the ancient Silk Road, combining that with development and economic cooperation with countries along the line to create a community of mutual trust, economic integration, cultural tolerance, destiny, and responsibility. Before we talk about the Belt and Road, let's examine its history. The Silk Road began 1800 years ago. It spanned from China's Changi to Chang'an in the middle of West Asia, and from Chang'an Plain all the way to Uganda in Africa. The middle reaches of the Central Asian River between the Wahi River and the Greater Iran connected the land passages of the Mediterranean countries. Its original role was to transport silk and porcelain produced in ancient China to Central Asia, the Mediterranean, and Africa. The Belt and Road region covers a total population of about 4.6 billion, more than 60% of the world's population, with a GDP of $20 trillion, about one-third of global GDP. According to the World Bank data, the average annual growth of global trade and cross-border direct investment was 7.8% and 9.7% during the period of 1990 to 2013. While the average annual growth rate of the 65 countries related in the Belt and Road region reached 13.1% and 16.5%, especially during the period of 2010 to 2013, after the international financial crisis, the annual growth rate of the Belt and Road foreign trade and net foreign investment reached 13.9% and 6.2% respectively, significantly higher than the global average. The Belt and Road is forming a new global trade axis, with Asia and Europe as the core. It is expected that the proportion of exports will increase to about one-third of global exports in the next decade and become China's major trading and investment partner. What is the purpose of China's development of the Belt and Road Initiative? There is no doubt that there are many economic and political intentions behind it, but let's take a look at the three main ones. Number 1. China's excess capacity is in urgent need of output. From 2000 to 2007, when the financial crisis occurred, China's money stock rose from 13.8 trillion RMB to 40.3 trillion RMB, nearly tripling in 7 years. The crisis gave the currency an unconventional thrust until 2011. China's currency stock has now doubled to 85.2 trillion RMB in the same period. China's nominal GDP rose from 10 trillion RMB in 2000 to 26.6 trillion RMB in 2007, and finally, in 2011, to 47.3 trillion RMB. The currency has not exceeded the GDP growth too much between 2000 and 2007, but the growth rate has significantly increased since 2008, which means that a large number of supercurrency currencies have entered the asset field. Money surpasses GDP growth, known as an increase in the degree of currency deepening. Compared with the horizontal historical comparison and the horizontal international comparison, China's currency deepening is obviously too high and too fast. Most of these over-the-counter currencies have been used by banks and credit institutions for mortgage lending of large projects. This has stimulated the construction of infrastructures, leading to countless enterprises in China investing early and investing more, rather than investing late and investing less. This has resulted in overcapacity in industries such as steel, aluminium, and chemical fibre. This excess capacity will need to be transferred to developing countries through industrial restructuring. After the Second World War, the world revived the two major economies of Europe and Asia, which were hit hard by the war. In response to this situation, when the United States implemented a large-scale assistance program, Western Europe countries accepted a large amount of assistance from the United States, including finance, technology, and equipment, through participation in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD. This has not only digested the capacity of the United States, but also supported the restoration of the two sub-centers of industrial transfer in Europe and Japan, and ushered in the so-called Golden Age of capitalism for 20 years after the war. Number 2. China's heavy dependence on foreign oil and gas resources. Today's China has the same dilemma as the US in the 1970s, which is a heavy dependence on imported energy. China's crude oil demand is growing by 4.2% annually. In 2007, it had become the world's largest crude oil importer. By 2020, China's crude oil import ratio will reach 70%, 434 million tonnes of which, about 362 million tonnes, will be transported by sea. More than 50% of oil imports come from the Middle East and North Africa and need to be transported by huge tanker ships. Maritime transport arteries have played a crucial role in China's trade, whether economic, military, or strategic. China must ensure the safety of its imports of petroleum and related products. This requires China to develop multiple energy channels, not only through the Straits of Malacca, but also through other Southeast Asian countries to control major ports to obtain energy, and even railways in Western China, oil and natural gas pipelines, and other direct access to energy. Number 3. Expanding China's strategic influence in Europe and Asia. The global financial crisis has seriously hurt the United States. Since Trump took office, the United States has not only proposed to withdraw from economic organizations such as TPP and NAFTA, but has withdrawn from the Global Climate Treaty. It even believes that NATO has no value for the United States. At the same time, China has been actively promoting globalization due to the vigorous development of large industrial economy. For decades, Chinese strategists have always faced a problem. On the one hand, the US military alliances, military deployment, and military operations in the Asian region are curbing the rise of China. In particular, the US Asia-Pacific rebalancing strategy has worried China. China hopes to strengthen the connectivity between Asia and Europe through the Belt and Road Initiative, avoid direct competition with the United States, and expand China's strategic influence in Asia and Europe. The Belt and Road involves many countries' interests. The significance of this strategy is already not just economic. With geopolitical intricacies of the Middle East and even Eurasia, the interest chain involves many countries. So, what are the biggest challenges of the Belt and Road? First of all, Russia, which controls the most resources in the world, has always been an active participant in geopolitics. In the Belt and Road Initiative, deepening energy cooperation between China and Central Asian countries can easily threaten Russia's interests and cause it to fear that its leading Eurasian integration process will be blocked. Why is this? Russia regards Central Asia as an important strategic region, and promoting economic integration with Central Asian countries is an important component of Russia's foreign policy. Russia's foreign policy priority is to further consolidate the CIS and work to strengthen the integration process in the CIS region. The priority is to establish the Eurasian Economic Union. After the launch of the Belt and Road Initiative, the Eurasian Economic Union, dominated by Russia, may change because of China's intervention. By the time the EU and Central Asian countries join the Belt and Road, the dominant position of Russia will be greatly weakened. Second is the influence of the United States. In 2013, the United States urged Japan to join the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, TPP. Negotiations. Promote the US ASEAN Economic Cooperation Initiative, E3, and expand cooperation with East Asian economies. The purpose is to prevent the emergence of a multipolarization or even a super-economic pattern in Asia with China, Russia, Korea, and Japan. In addition, the United States pivot to Asia will extend the southern end of the traditional First Island chain from Southeast Asia to South Asia, forming three major sectors of South Asia: India, Southeast Asia, ASEAN, and the Northeast Asia, Japan, and South Korea. By constructing three major blocks, the United States adheres to the strategic tactics of the sea. The United States and Japan have also weakened China's growing influence in the Indian Ocean by strengthening cooperation in the Indian Ocean. The development of the maritime Silk Road will be shortened by the connection between Japan and Southeast Asia. It will connect many with Southeast Asian countries and developing countries, and will make ASEAN and China closer to each other and accelerate the trend of shifting the global economic focus to Asia. Finally, as an important hub in the Belt and Road geography, India is very dissatisfied with China's enclosure in the Indian Ocean and South Asia. To the west is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. To the east is the Bangladesh-China, India, Myanmar Economic Corridor and the Sino-Nepalese Economic Corridor. And to the south is the Colombo Port and the Hambantota Port in Sri Lanka. Indian strategy scholar Brahma Sharani called the Belt and Road Initiative debt trap diplomacy, and China's burden on the poor countries indicated the arrival of the new colonial era. India believes that China's potential goal is to monopolize the interconnection, to use the economy as a strategy, and to even redraw the Indian border. The Belt and Road Initiative is a new policy across regions, with a new concept to bring the cooperative development economy into a new era. This is a long-term and systematic project that cannot be seen immediately. The long-term strategy of the Belt and Road Initiative requires constant adjustments from the current changing economic situation, revisions to the requirements of the economy in the new era, and new and different approaches to friendly and mutual beneficial cooperation with neighbouring countries' policies. The realisation of this goal requires continuous reform and innovation, and new solutions can be found in the new era. As for whether this policy will develop in the way it was designed, how much influence it has on the world economy and politics, and whether it will change the development pattern of the world, we can only wait and see. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you click like